Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another week and with another wondrous occasion of Porsche Cup racing in the official iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing and powered by the Chinese sim racing manufacturer CONSPIT. We're here today then for week number 9 of the 2025 Season 3 campaign, and we continue the theme of America, particularly an American triple header, and last time out of course it was the charge around the US state of New York, and in particular for Watkins Glen. But we've made our way all the way over to the West Coast, and we're here in the sunshine state of California for the one and only Corkscrew ridden circuit. It is the World Tech Raceway at Laguna Seca, and goodness me, what a rollercoaster ride we've got in store for our drives today. The Corkscrew, of course, is the corner that everybody knows and loves it for, an 18-metre plunge from apex to apex. However, the rest of the circuit is not to be underestimated. 11 corners, of which many of them heavily cambered, either off camber or on camber, is a circuit where the road is narrow, the corners are tight, and with it means that track position is ever key, and that's the thing that our drivers will need to get right in qualifying if they want to come away with victory. But where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you all to this live top split broadcast from circuit side as you're tuning into our weekly slot on the 1945 Greenwich Mean Time GMT or Universal Coordinate Time UTC slot on the Wednesday, and today of course is Wednesday the 13th of August 2025, and it's so great to have so many of you tuning in. As always, we give a shout out there immediately to CC Sim Racing and also to Scanigan, who are both absolutely excited to be going here. And don't be shy, feel free to say hi as we get ready to go racing once again on our regular stream. And in terms of our schedule for today, times as follows. Well, we've only got a one race on the occasion, and it is in just under 5 minutes time. We're making our way to the grid for our 18-lap thriller, and that is due to get underway at 5 to 8 this evening. But as all the drivers get themselves set and qualifying's ongoing in the background, well, let's set the scene of the calendar so far and what we've still got lying in wait. Well, as we can see, we are making our way now into the closing third, and we begin at the final third as of today at Laguna Seca. Prior to this, it was Watkins Glen, and after today, we've still got 3 more weeks of brilliant racing to come. And speaking of that brilliant racing, well, we do have Road America on Wednesday the 20th of August, and that's going to conclude our American triple header, where we make our way to the picturesque countryside in the US state of Wisconsin, after which we'll make our way to Portugal for the Algarve International Circuit, also known as Portimao, and then on Wednesday the 3rd of September, in week 12 of 12, we bring the curtain down at the infamous Hungaroring in Hungary, named after the country on which it is a regular staple for international racing. And well, you can imagine our drivers, they'll be very eager to go racing at the Hungaroring. They will be at the Algarve, they will be at Road America, but they'll just be eager today as they go racing at Laguna Seca. But talking a little bit about our circuit, well, of course, it is located between Monterey and Salinas in Monterey County of the US state of California. 11 corners, plenty of elevation changes, and a big thank you to iRacing.com, not just for their brilliant simulator, but also the track maps that come with it. Indeed, many of you may have this circuit map etched into your minds, and with its number of corners, a number of hairpins, a number of medium speed sweepers, and no long straight, it really is a tricky circuit to get right, but those who get it right, they'll find themselves coming away victorious quite potentially. But we'll have to see who is going to be the one to lead the way today. As we give you a quick reminder of the rules before we do go racing, setup-wise, this is an open setup series where drivers bring in their selected setups to each and every week of racing. The grid shall be set via a closed qualifying session, which is just about to close, with the race commencing via a standing start, as it's a tradition of the iRacing Porsche Cup. Drivers shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 17 more instant points for contacts and off tracks, and they shall be disqualified if they go up to 25 instant points. We haven't seen the disqualification so far this season, and long may that continue, but enough rules, regulation, everything in between. We're all here for the racing, so let's head back to circuit side, and what our drivers right now cooling themselves down here, and as they come to the close, well, we've only got 3 minutes or so left in this qualifying session, and only one driver yet to put a bad lap on the board in terms of competing in this qualifying session, and that is none other than Aidan Paul, as he roars his way around. Now, as he does so, heading all the way through and looking to try and get himself absolutely glued in with regards to the details of the lap around here. We can see the lap times there, and the fastest lap being set by a newcomer to this top split broadcast, and that is Gun Tastellan, who currently the pole sitter on a 1 minute 23.295, almost 2/10 faster than anybody else out there, with the second fastest driver being Tobias Olsen. However, you've got some regulars in there, starting 3rd and 4th provisionally. We're going to have the good old friends and rivals of Corey Lazarus and Philip Hammer, and Christian Carlson maybe 5th just behind. But what can Paul here do as he comes to the line? This will be his second and final flying lap. He's going to be our last qualifier. It's a 24.032. He does improve, but doesn't move up from 9th place. So solid effort there from our number 5 driver. But as he brings things to a pause on circuit, that brings our qualifying session to a close, ladies and gentlemen, because the rest of our drivers who have not put any lap times, well, it is, I believe, two different stories, whereby Kevin Crochet and also Hussein Ketman, they've both not put a valid lap in, despite taking 2 laps out there. Meanwhile, Joan Pereiro, Brandon Porter and Christian Savard, they've all not gone out onto circuit to do qualifying laps, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're perhaps banking on a bit of opening lap drama. But it does mean that your fastest driver there will be none other than Gunn Tesselton, and well, we look forward to seeing what he can do from that front row of the grid, having put himself on pole by almost 2 attempts. But again, also keep your eyes out some drivers further down the order, and in particular, we do see the return to the grid all the way down in 15th place, and that is going to be Vinicius Naumsuk, who we look forward to seeing how he can get on all the way down in the number 17 car, and we also are looking forward to plenty of performances there from the likes of Felix Wolfer, who's new onto the grid today, and also Jack Craft. But with just under a minute to go, we'll quickly show you the iRacing licenses for our different drivers as we replace their door numbers with their combined licenses, so you get an idea of the skill levels here. And well, our number 1 driver there on pole and door number 1, the highest iRacing driver in this split today on 9.5k iRating is none other than Tastellan, and we look forward to seeing exactly whether he can maintain his iRating or whether his rivals make it the upper hand. Of course, the uninitiated, the higher the iRating, the higher your door number in the split, whereby the number 1 driver, door number wise, is the highest rated. Meanwhile, with the fact that we do have the best part of about 23 drivers here, while door number 23 driver, that is going to be Adam Brickley, who starts this one 18th. He is your lowest rated driver and the one who can gain the most on iRating. But that's the story of iRating and everything in between, and without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, qualifying is complete. Let's make our way to the grid then and see how they all formally line up for our occasion here at the WeatherTech Raceway at Laguna Seca for week number 9 of the 2025 Season 3 Top Split campaign here in the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT. So as our drivers transition to the grid, this is how they line up then. It is going to be newcomer Gunn Tastellan, who lines up on pole. The Turkish driver will be joined on the front row of the grid by none other than Tobias Olsen, with the smiling Swede there, second place, Ice Cold Racing Powered. We then do have Corey Lazarus starting third. The privateer once again putting himself comfortably on the podium, and he has proven to be a very quick driver in his heyday and continues to do so. He's in the company there of Philip Hammer, who starts full for pole promotion esports. Behind them, it's going to be Christian Carlson, and then other than Saint Amir, and then behind the totally safe drivers, we have Ice Cold Racing's none other there than Oscar Bernsen, who starts in 7th. He'll be joined by fellow European from the Netherlands. It is going to be their Connor Fransen, and then round off your top 10 will be Aidan Pohl and Jonathan Limerson. In 11th, behind them, as we come on to the next set of rows, in the 6th row of the grid, we do have Carl McGuinness ahead of Ethan Lovejoy, and from the Welshman to the Briton, it is going to be Jack Craft. On 14th, we're going to have Miguel Sierra from the United States of America, home circuit for him today, ahead of Vinicius Naumsk, who will be starting in 15th, the Brazilian driver, ahead of Alfredo Di Regibus, and then we have Felix Wolfer and none other than Adam Brickley making up row number 9. Completing your top 10 rows and your top 20 with it, Kevin Crochet and Hussein Ketman. And then on the final 2 rows of the grid, started 21st, it'll be Joan Pereiro ahead of Brandon Porter. And last but not least, in 23rd place from Canada, we will have Christian Savard, who starts in the number 22 there, having no valid lap on the board. And then he's got all the hard work to do from the very back of the field. But everyone's absolutely set. And as everyone gets themselves ready to go, well, we're not too far away from green flag racing. Indeed, only about 20 seconds. Your iRating for this top split as of tonight is 3,930. Not the highest we've seen, but not the lowest. So it'll be a competitive one, but all drives on the grid. The lights going on, ladies and gentlemen. And it's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5 red lights. And it's lights out, and away we go here at Laguna Seca as Gunn Tastellan gets a good start. He roars his way away. Tobias Olsen, meanwhile, having to go defensive there versus Corey Lazarus. Flip Hammer looking around the outside as Christian Carlson immediately going on the offensive here, trying to get a one-up on the German driver. They all run a little bit deep, then going for the Andretti hairpin, and as they emerge, will we see any changes? Well, we do see there Jonathan Emerson upper place as Connor Fransen drops down 2, and all the field scrambling here into turn number 3, and this is where they'll start to lose momentum as they roar the way through the right-hander. But side by side there goes Jack Craft versus Di Regibus, and as Di Regibus makes his way around the outside, there's a bit of a rub there, and let's go cause him to be ejected slightly wide, but not without Miguel Sierra taking the place. But as everyone scrambles now in towards turn number 5, well, onto the hard anchors they go. Remember, no ABS on these cars, nor traction control. It's all done and powered by the driver. When up the hill, you can see a bit of scramble there, as that was almost coming to blows there between Kevin Crochet and Hussein Ketman, but in the end Ketman backs off and Crochet tucks in behind Naumsk in return. But up the hill, Jack Craft now, he settles damage down here for a brief moment, but Ethan Lovejoy, his rival, which of the two here is going to come up the upper hand? Well, that is going to be, I believe, Kraft going up the inside, and well, in the end, in fact, it's Ethan Lovejoy takes the place as Felix Wolfer has had a moment. Oh no, that's gone very wrong, and sideways there just in front. Wolfer just dodges the wayward car of Christian Savard, so Savard goes sideways in the end. Vincentius Naumsk as well gets it wrong, and they all seem to get it wrong towards the back of the field. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, one driver is so getting it right. And that is none other than Gun Testellen as he makes his way onto lap number 2. A second clear already of Corey Lazarus, who sits in second. And then we do have the number 4, Tobias Olsen, who completes your top 3. Philip Hammer, a slow start for him, but stays where he started in 4th place, ahead of Saint Emir, who's gained 1 place. Oscar Bernson is in 6th, ahead of Christian Carlson in 7th. And then we do have Aidan Pohl, Connor Franson, and Carl McGuinness wrapping up your top 10. Best the rest in 11th. Well, there you've got Jocelyn Emerson, who very quickly is no longer best the rest. He drops all the way down, turns the car around, and well, that's a difficult start for him as he tries to piece things back together, but not before we come here to the battle between Aidan Pohl and Christian Carlson. And well, a bit of contact to the rear of Carlson's car that you can see the damaged rear bumper as Pohl looks up the inside. That's a little squeeze. He's going to force the door open there. Can he hold it together? The answer is yes, he can, but now it's too wide into turn 6. The one corner you don't go too wide out here. Well, they're going to go for it, and in the end, well, Aidan Pohl will take the place and Christian Carlson backs off. But now the damage is done because he loses all the momentum up the hill. And watch this as Connor Franson looks at opportunity, and that's not a way to do it, says Carl McGuinness, as he tries to go up the inside, but sideways goes there. Connor Franson in the end gets collected, and the whole field spreads its way around. And in the end, Connor Franson rejoins, but drops to 11th place, head of the Regibus, Ethan Lovejoy, and also Christian Carlson as they all queue back up together. So I think there a little bit of red mist going to there to Connor Franson, trying to make an absolute death dive up into the corkscrew, and it didn't quite work out for him. But thankfully, it almost came to tears, but it didn't quite for all the drivers involved and around him. So this is going to be a calmer into lap number 3, presumably, albeit they come to the end of lap number 2. Let me correct myself there. And going on to lap number 3, well, now our drivers will definitely see if they can calm things down for a brief moment. Although in the Porsche Cup, there's one thing that's for certain: these flat 6 machines with their screaming 9,000 RPM red lines, they're not going to calm down if they can help it for too long. And speaking of a driver here who's not looking to calm down, we jump on board with Jack Kraft, currently in 15th place. He started 13th, had a bit of a slow start, and was involved in an earlier incident, which cost him a couple of places. So right now, Kraft really just trying to tease the car back into life here. Keep in mind, of course, that the tyre compound they run on, it does turn on very quickly. Normally, it only takes one flying lap for them to really get it switched on, and then after that, it all comes around management of the car. Now, these are sprint races effectively. The race distance is no more than 25 minutes in total when you add the laps and the lap times up. But the idea is here you do want to protect the tyre a little bit. It's normally good for the best part of 15 to 20 minutes, depending on the circuit we're racing on and the rate of tyre degradation. So you do have to take a little bit of respect to the tyre, albeit I can see that right now, well, Alvio Di Regibus is just going absolutely defensive as he can, as he's trying to hold on to 12th place. The man is going 4 places. He started all the way down in 16th place, but he's got Ethan Lovejoy trying to take a poke up the inside of rainy curve, and that's not the way to do it, as that's going to eject Di Regibus out wide. They all go wide. They're all into the gravel there, and well, Carl went the wrong way. That's the number 10, and somehow everybody was able to dodge Ethan Lovejoy, who's just parked up there in the middle of the road, and it's all gone wrong for Ethan Lovejoy again. Well, that's an absolute nightmare moment, and well, as Corey Lazarus, we come back to the front of the field. Well, he's battling for second place with Tobias Olsen behind, but Testellen is running away with this as he goes on to lap number 4, and Corey Lazarus right now, I think, really playing the game of who's going to be the second fastest driver over the distance, with Tobias Olsen right there with him. But we've had plenty of action, but we need to get a bit of a replay as to some of the incidents that have happened since the start of the race. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a trip back in time and take a look to that race start via replay. So here we go, back to the race start then, and well, for Gun Testellen, you're going to see here absolutely launches away when they do get the revs going, and well, despite starting slightly uphill, Testellen nailing the start. Tobias Olsen, meanwhile, well, he was able to get a good run. Philip Hammer gained in the second phase of the launch, and that caused Lazarus to have to go defensive. Now, the top 6, they got away absolutely cleanly, but where things start to get a little bit intriguing is a bit further back, with Miguel Sierra being one of the many drivers who started to get a bit bunched up here as they came out of turns 1, 2 and 3. And well, we did see Sierra in the number 14, hold on for 16 there, a bit of a sideways moment. That would have been Connor Franson, who had some difficulty coming out of turn 3, but everyone's safely on through the opening trio corners. So where did it all go wrong? Well, this was late on lap number 1 for Vinicius Naumsk, and Naumsk get there on the brakes and just speared his way across the gravel, and unfortunately collected the number 21 there, and it was subsequently recollected by the 21 of Felix Wolfer. So that's how the two of them came together. Christian Savard, meanwhile, well, how did it go wrong for him? Well, seen the incident in front, the Canadian driver will have, but as he made his way down the hill, on that outside line, went out wide, too wide, picked up a bit of grass on the rear left tyre, and that sent the car all the way round. Lap number 2, this happened for Jonathan Lemerson down into the Andretti hairpin, and that was a tap there from Sierra on entry. Was there a further tap on exit? And the answer was yes, it was based on that camera angle, although it's not the clearest of ones, and that sent Lemerson all the way round. Kevin Crusher, meanwhile, he had this happen to him heading up towards turn number 6 on lap number 2, and well, he was at the time running just towards the back end of the top 10 and just bounced his way off the apex curve there at turn number 6, and well, the rest was history. As for Connor Franson, meanwhile, well, this was the drama that Franson experienced in the Red Bull livery machine, and well, battling there with Carl McGuinness, and well, Franson looked up the inside of the number 8, went all in there, but in the end made a mistake, and with it, Christian Carlson also went sideways as well, and the two of them rejoined after all the chaos and madness. And then this was what happened towards the end of lap number 3 for Ethan Lovejoy. This was the attempted move on the number 19 of Alfio Di Regibus, made contact with Di Regibus, and then everyone had to fan their way left, right and centre as Ethan Lovejoy trying to get the car to stop, and when then got it stopped, but right in the middle of the road, and that was not easy for anybody to dodge. But let's come back to your live racing, and as we do, well, there's still plenty more action to come, and we haven't missed too much since we've been away with replays, albeit it has been a bit of a moment for Jack Craft on lap number 4. We'll try and get a replay of that when we can in the next batch, but the battle between Tastellan, Lazarus and Olsen has fanned out a little bit, so the top 3 now seem to be safe with each other, at least for the time being. But Aidan Pohl here, he's quite close to the back of Oscar Berntsson as they make the way around turn number 4. Now, is this a sign of a battle building? It may be. Further back, as our camera pivots around, we do have there Miguel Sierra battling with Adam Brickley. And Brickley right now, for what was a lightning start, he's already up 8 places. He started 18th, keep in mind, did Brickley, and now he's up into 10th. Well, he does have Miguel Sierra there behind, and these two drivers have both had lightning quick starts in their respective fashions, albeit Brickley here now is going to go on a bit of defence, but Sierra up the inside, tucks in just in time. And I get the feeling that Adam Brickley there was looking for what was the cutback run. He's got it, but the problem is he's not close enough to really go for it, coming over the rise, up the Rahul Straight, and in towards Corkscrew, and that does mean that Brickley has to tuck in. But I wouldn't be surprised if Adam here is perhaps playing the game, which is, you know what, I'm the lowest rated driver in this lobby. I don't need to really win the race. I just need to finish in the top half, and I'm going to gain a lot of iRate, and this will be great experience for the number 23 driver, and he'll be very happy with that. However, one driver won't be happy with his position. This will be Aidan Pohl battling with Oscar Berntsson. Berntson's going to be happy because he's been looking around the outside at the final hairpin. We come back to the fight for 6th place. Here they come down towards Andretti. On to the brakes they go. Pohl, they're very tight to the inside. Berntsson, meanwhile, looking for the switchback run. He can't quite find it as we jump back aboard with the number 7 driver. And, well, poetically, the number 7 in 7th place. But he wants to try and break that and move into 6th place if he can. However, the problem is right now, as we ride on board with him, he can't seem to find a way through, at least for the moment. And Berntsson here runs a little bit wide. That dirty edge just upsetting the front end of the car. A bit of understeer creeping in there when normally these cars are more prone to oversteer, but still it is an element. We're battling with that dirty air right now. He has to stay behind. But such is the life of racing Laguna Seca. And as we said earlier on in the broadcast, overtaking here is very tricky. You've really got to have a pace advantage, and you've got to be brave as well. You can't just simply have a pace advantage here, because if a driver puts the car in the middle of the road, they pretty much shut down most overtaking opportunities unless you force the issue. But speaking of forcing the issue, we have had a change for 2nd place. Tobias Olsen is now upper position versus Corey Lazarus. Now, how has that happened? We're not sure at the moment, but we are seeing the consequences of it, and it is that these two are now fighting each other again, and Philip Hammer is getting closer and closer. He's now only a whole second off. But look at this. This is a good run out the final quarter from Lazarus. Immediately, Olsen goes defensive to the wall there as they come over the crest and down towards turn 2. Too wide they go there into the braking zone, and Lazarus right now, what's he going to do? He's going to go for the switchback here. However, Olsen sees it coming, but he doesn't get the car stopped in time. Lazarus is there on exit. They'll be too wide, but now into a right-hander, a very tricky right-hander to overtake around the outside. Lazarus is going to go for it, however. This is bold stuff from Lazarus. Philip Hammer, meanwhile, watches and thinks, excellent, guys. Thank you for bringing me into the fight. And now Philip Hammer's going to try and get involved here and make it a three-way fight for the run-up spot. Well, here they come up towards turn number 5, and you can see there Both Olsen and Lazarus, it's almost as if they've seen Philip Hammer in their rear view mirrors and both said to each other via Morse code of some description, okay, well, Philip's here now, let's not fight each other, because otherwise we're going to be dealing with the man who normally comes on very strong as the races go on, albeit he won't be going on strong if he makes a mistake like that. And Philip Hammer runs out wide, and that's going to enable Saint Emir to go up his inside. And well, Hammer, for all the speed he gained, suddenly loses all the places and moves down to 5th place, as Emir now up into 4th, and another place gained, having started in 6th place. Good on the man in the number 6. But down the crest he comes then, in towards the left-hander and out of Rainy Curve. Well, now he's going to have Philip Hammer started to breathe down his neck, as Aidan Pole, meanwhile, in 6th place, seems to have broken away from Oscar Bernson. And further back, we do look to Connor Franson versus Carl McGuinness. And, well, it is Franson all over the back of the man who overtook him earlier on after the craziness at the Corkscrew. Under braking here, however, and right now, Franson's so close he could reach out and touch the rear wing of his rival as they head towards the halfway point of this race. They're fighting over 8th place here as they power their way along the start-finish straight. But what can Franson do here? We've seen a lot of drivers on the attack trying to go around the outside into turn number 2. However, it hasn't normally worked out unless your name is Corey Lazarus and he's almost made it work. However, nobody's been able to make it fully work, but that is very bold there, too wide into the corner. And as they come on out, well, there's door rubbing aplenty here. Neither driver wants to give in. And I think Carl McGuinness there saying back to Franson, look, you're going to get as good as you can give if you're going to elbow me coming out of Andretti. This is great racing between the two of them. We don't want to see it escalate any more than that, because otherwise it will go from rubbing to definitely rudimentary racing. And right now, Connor Franson, I think we're thinking, okay, Carl McGuinness is going to put his proverbial boxing gloves on if I try that again. I've got to be a little bit more tactical with it. But for how long? As we jump aboard the bumper camera here of the number 9, well, number 13 definitely start trying to stay fixed in position as they head up the hill, and Franson having a bit of a nightmare moment coming out of turn number 6. Well, that's not going to help him as he comes over the crest. In fact, falls backwards slightly into the Corkscrew. However, it gives him better room to sight up his braking marker for the Corkscrew, and also his approach to the apex as he descends down the 18-metre drop. So he won't be complaining too much about that. It can enable him to rubber band his way back to his rival as quickly as possible. But through turn number 10, and that's a very poor run there from McGuinness. You could see the body language of the car completely off the optimum line there, coming for the right-hander, and will runs very deep as a result. McGuinness is not happy these final 2 quarters, and here comes the opportunity there. Franson close again, switches to the inside, looks on the outside to the inside, but McGuinness goes to cover him off, and now McGuinness is pinned to the inside, coming over the crest, down for the kink of 1, in towards 2, and onto the brakes they go, then looking around the outside with Miguel Sierra only 1.2 seconds behind. It's a switchback this time, and this time Franson gets there midway through the Andretti hairpin, and well, he did have to dive on the inside then to the second apex. I think Carl McGuinness realising that he would have lost the place after he ran a bit deep at the hairpin. So Connor Franson makes it through into 8th place. Good move there, and now upwards he goes with an 8-second gap to Oscar Bernson up in 7th. But from them, we come back to the fight for 4th, or should we say come back up to the fight for 4th in the running order, as right now Saint Emir, he may have picked up that 4th place. When Philip Hammer ran wide out of turn number 6, only a couple of laps to go. But now the problem's going to be for Emir in the fact that he's losing time to the leaders. I don't think he's got the pace to match the top 3, but now he's got to try and keep behind him a driver who is no slouch in the Porsche Cup car, Philip Hammer. And to put it in perspective, over the course of this season, we have seen Hammer take several victories in these top split broadcasts, and his most recent victory coming in week number 7, when he did battle between himself and Gareth Higgins at Circuit Zandvoort. Last time out, well, it didn't quite work out for him at Watkins Glen after a major mistake into turn 1 on lap number 2 cost him. Well, it did mean that Corey Lazarus was able to take the place off of him, but still, we do know that Hammer is always a very, very versatile driver. But through the Andretti hairpin they come, and it looks like Saint Emir right now at least is holding his ground just about. But from them, going back to Carl McGuinness, well, I'm not quite sure what's happened to him since we last left him alone, other than the fact he's now got Miguel C. Sierra all over the back of him, and the American driver here switching from one side to the other coming out of Andretti, however not quite able to get fully alongside. So I think he's going to try and do what Connor Franson did. He's going to have to get a lot closer if he wants to make this happen. But McGuinness seems to be struggling on pace right now, and that struggle is only going to get worse and worse if he's not able to stop the rot, because Sierra is right in the toe, 2 tenths of the gap as they come up towards turn number 5, but it's not going to be enough here. I think Miguel Sierra at this point is just going to be thinking to himself, okay, I've got the best part of this lap plus another 7 to try and get the job done. I don't need to rush here, but I do need to get the move on slightly just if he wants to finish a bit higher. But remember, he started in 14th place, his door number is number 14, he's currently in 10th, so therefore every place he takes from this point onwards is going to feel like icing on the cake. He got the hard work done in the early stages of the race. But speaking of hard work, it's going to be hard work for some drivers out there because we have had some major incidents since we last cut back to some of our replay footage. And, well, just before we come to that, we've had a slowdown there for Hussein Ketman. I believe he ran wide out of turn number 6, the number 15 driver yielding 13th place to Jonathan Lemerson. And, well, we do have a major incident which did occur for Felix Wulfel. And what exactly happened to the number 21 driver, well, here we take a replay. Now, this was coming out of turn number 3. Didn't really run wide there, so into turn number 4. Oh, goodness me, somebody went around there. That was Kevin Crichet. And in the end, well, Wolf was just running wide out the corner, I think, not knowing where to put the car. And in the end, missed his braking point entirely. So that was an odd one. We then had this one for Alfio Di Regibus, the Brazilian driver, making his way into the corkscrew in the number 19. And as he did, what exactly happened here? Came down and the car just let go of the rebound on the rear axle and will kick the number 19 around. And in the end, everyone doing very well to take evasive action. That could have been far worse than it was, but it wasn't quite. So well done to everyone for avoiding what could have been a major incident. And that is how that's ended. However, speaking of things that have ended, whilst we've been away, we have had a change of position for 9th place. Miguel Sierra has found his way past Carl McGuinness, and, well, that only happened moments ago, and we are going to get a quick replay as to what happened between them. Now, this was coming out of the final corner to go from lap 11 to lap 12. The run was on there for Miguel Sierra. Up the inside he went, and McGuinness there wasn't going to fight it too hard. I think he'd already recognised the fact he'd lost the right to defend the inside by the time they'd made the way to the timing line, and Sierra up the inside almost overcooked it, interestingly. A lot of drivers are struggling with that inside line coming in towards Andretti hairpin. They just don't seem to be braking about the 20 metres earlier that you need to on that tighter line, and Sierra almost losing the place that he's been chasing for so long. But he didn't quite do so. Good move there, but very risky ends that one. But back to your live racing pictures we go, and as we do, we come back to your race leader, who's enjoying right now a very pleasant run in the Californian sun. 7 seconds clear of Tobias Olsen is Gun Tastelen. But speaking of Tobias Olsen, here he is with Corey Lazarus only 8 tenths behind him. And then you do have the fight for 4th, and this is perhaps the biggest battle inside the top 5 at the moment, because Saint Emir right now is doing a very good job of holding Philip Hammer at bay. Now, Hammer is still close. He's been within 2 to 3 tenths on average a lap for pretty much the last 5 laps. However, Saint Emir just seems to have a little bit of a knack here to keep Hammer at bay. It will be the nature of the circuit, but let's not also be rude to the driver from his home country of Turkey, who is doing a fantastic job of holding on to this position right now, and indeed is making his car nice and wide and maintaining a good amount of consistency. And in fact, on that previous lap, a 23.74, that was a personal best for Emir, so he is finding time out there, and I think he's settling down into this pressure cooker of a situation. And some drivers, they just need that. If they can get some confidence under them after 3 laps of keeping a higher rated driver behind them, it normally gives them the confidence to then think, you know what, we might just be able to bring this one home. But Hammer, of course, he might be playing the long game here, Philip Hammer, because I think he recognises with 3.5 seconds to Corey Lazarus and the pace that Lazarus has, which is equal to Hammer, I think Hammer is thinking at this point he knows he's not going to beat Lazarus unless Lazarus makes a major mistake. So therefore he's probably protected the tyres to the last couple of laps and then thinking to himself, okay, I'm going to give myself the best possible trim of car to attack on lap 15 onwards. I wouldn't be surprised if that's going through Hammer's mind at the moment. He might be playing the tactical mindset, which is I can't get to 3rd, but I can definitely get 4th if I take the time with it. We will wait and see what happens there, because Eden Pole in 6th has broken away from Oscar Bernson over the last 4 laps, and in fact that gap between the two of them has gradually expanded upwards, but not at a rapid rate. It will, however, when Bernson makes a mistake. They're going very sideways at turn number 5. We just caught the tail end of that, and that's all the tyre smoke being kicked up there, where he's glided sideways and had to bring the car back under control. But Oscar Bernson definitely having a bit of difficulty there, and that's not common from what we see from the number 7 driver, at least what we've seen so far today. Bit further back, well, it may have gone silent inside the top 5, but outside the top 5, and indeed outside the top 15, this is Felix Wulfler ahead of Brandon Porter. Porter is the focus of our cameraman's attention in the number 20, and right now the pink and white machine is giving pursuit, the number 20 driver versus the number 21, so 2 drivers who in the end are expected to fight each other, to be similar on pace, and demonstrating exactly that. And well, as we jump on board here with Porter, what could he do? Can he go for the move up the inside there through the Rahul Straight? Not quite. He was thinking about it, but then saw the line that his rival was going to take and opted to back out immediately. We're down through that right-hander and in towards the left of Rainy Curve. The long downhill run here, which always can catch out a driver or two. Well, right now, Brandon Porter close, but not close enough to think about the lunge into 10. But he won't be going for it there. It's not a common place to overtake, whereas a good place to overtake is 11 or down towards turn number 2. But which way is Brandon Porter going to set this up? Well, coming out of the corner. Close, but not the best run off the apex there. 3 attempts and only starting to gain now as they're a third of the way along the start-finish straight. So I get the feeling that Felix Walther might have a car under him that's a little bit happier in these lower speed corners compared to Porter's car, who may have set it up for the medium speed apexes by comparison. These Porsche Cup cars, they are quite sensitive, and keep in mind that we are running the latest generation of the car for this year, but Porsche has recently unveiled a whole new machine, the Evo machine for 2026, and that'll be making its way into real life racing in the near future, and we look forward to seeing that and one day potentially translating into the simulator here on iRacing. But of course that's no prediction of whether it's going to come or not, but that's the hope we would love to see, or at least this commentator would love to see. But Brandon Porter right now, all he'd love to see is an opportunity to take 16th place, but not quite able to as they head in towards turn 6. He has another peak, but no way through it this time. But from them, as they head up the hill, we do come back to the battle for none other than 4th place, albeit not quite yet. And now we cut over to the battle for 4th place, and here it's like Emir versus Philip Hammer. And well, now Hammer getting a bit closer. We did say he might be building up to a move. And now Hammer starting to really get on the rear end of Emir, coming through the corners where he's been backing off previously as they make the way through the right hand. And Emir right now, well, only 2 attempts as they exit out, and Hammer is really building this up here. Indeed, he does seem to be stringing it along, but he wants to make sure this move only needs to be made once. And to give credit where it's due, as we've said time and time again, it's not because Hammer's backing off here intentionally. He hasn't got the pace to beat sight Emir in these short runs to the corners, and that goes to show you that our man running in 4th of Emir is no slouch out there. He's delivering a great job as well. As we do say hello very quickly there to Max Sim Racing in the YouTube chat. Apologies for not spotting you earlier. But as I try to come on down the round through the corkscrew, well, right now everybody making the way together here in this battle for 4th place. It's a freeway fight now because Aidan Pole has got right onto the back of it as well, and he fancies his chances just as much as his rivals. But who is going to be the one who's going to make the first move here? Well, if you're Aidan Pole, I think you need to be A, a little bit closer, but also B, you've got to be in the mindset here, which is the 2 in front may just take each other off the road yet, and he might be able to gain 2 for the price of 1. However, if he's thinking that philosophy, he's running out of time to apply it, because we head on to the penultimate lap, and Saint Emir still holding on versus Hammer as they come down towards Andretti, with Pole now close, very firmly in the grips of this battle. But from this, we do have a battle now for 2nd place. Tobias Olsen coming out of turn number 2 and in towards 3. He's had a poor run out of turn 2, and that gap he crafted of a whole second has suddenly been completely slashed as Corey Lazarus runs wide there, a bit too eager with the throttle pedal, and understeer coming in, and well, that is going to cost him a bit of time. But looking behind, a similar situation for Philip Hammer. He ran slightly wide coming out of turn number 4 from what I'm hearing in my ear, and as a result, Saint Emir just taking a little bit of breathing room into turn 5. Well, both of Hammer and Lazarus in their respective battles are now having to use all the track to try and make moves happen, but that's when the mistakes can potentially come as time is running out and it's of the essence. Further down the order in the fight for 17th place, well, this is Kevin Cruchet up the inside of Brandon Porter, and that's going to be a move for position, and well, that's going to go into 17th place there very quickly for the number 11 driver on a bit of recovery drive there. Smooth move for Andretti, but we're going to leave that there for now as we come back to the fight for 2nd, and well, as we do, our race leader's gone to the final lap off camera, but I've seen him out the commentator booth window. A tap to the rear of Olsen's car there for Lazarus, just a small love tap, albeit it's going to push him wide, but Lazarus immediately backs off there and decides to back off to make sure he didn't gain an advantage. Well, that's a great sportsman there in the number 3, because he's in fact given up even more time versus Olsen than perhaps he wanted. Meanwhile, in the battle for 4th place, we're Emir right now under pressure. Here comes Hammer up the inside. He's not close enough, however, but he calls Emir to go deep. He feints Emir into a mistake, but Hammer makes one of his own. He locks up, and Aidan Pole sneaks up the inside, and Philip Hammer is just not having a happy day at Laguna Seca. Nothing is clicking together when he's under pressure, and for Hammer, that's a fall to 6th place, and not a happy one, as Emir and Pole now will try to run away, and the battle for 4th might be between them for the remainder of the day. But whilst they get closer and closer in the vice-like battle of that 4th place position, And further back, we do have now Kevin Kuruchet up into 16th place ahead of Brandon Porter and Vincinius Naumsk, who has in fact been involved in a bit of an incident. However, we're not going to be able to get you a replay of that given the amount of time we've got remaining in this race. And I say that truthfully because as these drivers make their way down to the braking zone in towards Andretti, meanwhile, this man makes it about the last couple of quarters. He comes towards turn number 11 for the final time. And give a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. He's been absolutely unstoppable from pole position. He's run away with this one. And for Gun Tastellan, he takes victory here in week number 9 of the 2025 Season 3 campaign at Laguna Seca. A phenomenal drive there and takes victory by 10.5 seconds. However, as this man makes his way to line, Tobias Olsen is your runner-up there, who did a fantastic job at keeping Corey Lazarus at bay, who rounds off your podium. Sight Emir holds on for 4th, but will it be Aidan Pole or Philip Hammer in 5th? It's going to be Pole there, who just keeps Hammer at bay, close between them at the close, and then Oscar Bernson finishes in 7th, and we do have a 10-second gap to Connor Franson, who in the Red Bull machine, well, it was a shaky start, but the number 9 driver, it's a smooth ending. He takes 8th ahead of Miguel Sierra on his home circuit, and Carl McGuinness makes it 10th place there in a brilliant defensive drive over the distance, with Christian Carlson best the rest in a length ahead of Adam Brickley, who had a frustrating race. He could have been a top 10 contender, been in settled for 12th, ahead of Jonathan Lemerson, who will take 13th place, and then we will have a further 12 seconds before we do get to the rest of the field. But look at the ball scrambling out the final quarter. Well, Johan Barrera will take 14th, but who will take 15th behind? It'll be Kevin Kuruchet ahead of Brandon Porter. Felix Wolf will take 17th ahead of Vincinius Naumsk, and then we do have 5.5 seconds back to none other than Alfio Di Regibus, who takes 19th place, and then we have a further 12 seconds before we do get to Hussein Ketman, who today won a bruised and battered number 15. That pretty much summarises his day here at Laguna Seca. It has not been a positive one, but he will take 20th just ahead of Christian Savard, and then Jack Kraft will be your last finisher of this race with Ethan Lovejoy being your sole retiree. Well, as all the drives bring it to a close, and indeed we see everyone on the cool down, let's take a look through those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries, and here they are. So after a fantastic 18 laps of racing in the 2025 Season 3 Week 9 top split session for the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT, and well, we got to see Gun Tastellan take an absolutely emphatic win there, a monster drive, and taking victory by 10.5 seconds, the privateer, over Ice Cold Racing powered by Maxim Racing's Tobias Olsen, who finished as runner-up. Olsen did not have it easy, but in the end, with Corey Lazarus pushing so hard, well, Lazarus was pushed into a mistake, and the privateer having to settle from 3rd, but still an absolutely brilliant effort, and great to see him back on the podium. Sight Emir holding on to a brilliant 4th place for totally safe drivers, and he kept it nice and safe despite the intentions of both Aidan Pole and Philip Hammer, who finished behind in 5th and 6th. From the pole promotion esports driver, it was then 4 seconds back to Oscar Bernson for Ice Cold Racing powered by Maxim Racing, and then we did see the privateer trio of Connor Franson, Miguel Sierra and Carl McGuinness round off your top 10. Best the rest in a length was Christian Carlson, a solid drive there for the Norwegian driver, albeit not the best of starts. However, it's about how you finish, and he finished on a high note, having started all the way up in 5th place. Well, definitely it went away from him today, but still finished inside the top half of the field. Adam Brickley took 12th, and keep in mind that Brickley did start in 18th place, 12th place there, and at one point contesting 10th place. Well, a solid effort there from the number 23 driver. Jonathan Lemerson was 13th for Ice Cold Racing powered by Maxim Racing, and well, he had to hold off the intentions of a good number of drives, but he left them all for dust in the end, and the first one of those being Johan Barrero, with the Argentinian holding on to 14th. It was then pretty much a dead heat between the quartet of Kevin Kuruchet for Torah Team ahead of Brandon Porter, with Felix Wolf and Vincinius Naumsk rounding off your top 18. A further 6 seconds back, Alfio Di Regibus was 19th, and in completing your top 20, it was none other than Hussein Ketman. Behind them, well, outside the top 20, we did see there in 21st place Christian Savard ahead of Jack Kraft, and in your sole retiree from the race, still with the best part of 13 laps to go, Ethan Lovejoy, and no joy today for the Welshman here at Laguna Seca. So 23 starters, 22 finishers, all of which on the lead lap, and in the end, your top 3 being none other than Gun Tastellan, ahead of Tobias Olsen and Corey Lazarus in a brilliant race to take us through the second week in our American triple header. But as the circuit falls silent, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we've got time for racing-wise today. But before we do wrap up, of course, a word from our title sponsor for the iRacing Porsche Cup, and that is CONSPIT. Let's tell you a little bit more about the sim racing hardware provider. If you are looking to take your sim racing to the next level, then why not consider CONSPIT? As the pro driver's choice of sim racing hardware, CONSPIT offers one of the most comprehensive lines of hardware products to sim racers around the world. Whether you're in the market for wheelbases, steering wheels, pedals, peripherals, or rigs, CONSPIT's extensive experience in the motorsport industry means every one of their products is fine-tuned for success at the highest level. But do not just take our word for it. We're brand ambassadors including 2022 Grand Prix Macau GT Cup champion Luo Kaliu, 2022 Porsche Carrera Cup Asia champion Liu Ye, 2022 Chinese Touring Car Championship champion Rodolfo Avila, and 2023 GT World Challenge Asia GT3 Cup champions Climax Racing. You shall be in pole position for victory when you invest in CONSPIT's hardware. If you'd like to know more, be sure to head to conspit.com today. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with that, it is now time for us to look ahead, and in a week's time, week 10, well, we have got the conclusion of our American triple header, and it is going to be in the picturesque countryside of Wisconsin that we see our drivers charge around the full course of Road America. But who will be the one to get the power down and get it absolutely right? Tune in a week's time on Wednesday, the 20th of August of 2025 to find out how the story continues. But until then, we have been the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, like our drivers, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay on track. Good night.